world where achievements and accolades motivate us to do more and be more, we're often left wondering, is this really it?
Deep inside, you know there is more to life. You're ready to leave behind the old, push your way through, and claim the deeper life that's calling you.
That's where we excel.
We're your hosts, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Stephanie.
And this is the Soulful Leader Podcast.
Sit back and relax as we share the shortcuts we've uncovered to help you make shift happen. Welcome back to the Soulful Leader. Today, Stephanie and I were really excited because we want to talk about the power of conscious incompetence, and especially for us leaders. Stephanie just had an experience where she had a coach tell her that she needed to be consciously incompetent. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, there's a lot of shame as leaders sometimes that we think we should know it all. Like we should go in there, we should have everything all figured out, we should have expertise in every area.
Yeah, we're supposed to have the answers, right?
Exactly.
The people come to us because we're leaders, because we're supposed to have the answers.
And that is so arrogant. It's so hard on us to do that. In fact, my coach was basically saying, no, actually, he was kind of making a quote like from Richard Branson. When Richard Branson goes into his team, he literally puts his ego on the back burner and just totally goes in there as completely like he knows nothing. He knows absolutely nothing. And he knows that who he's hired as on his team are excellent at what they do. So he goes in and he said, hey, this is what's going on. This is a problem, or what do you guys want to be doing, or what's happening? And they come up with the ideas, and then they also come up with the solutions. And he sits back. So it allows him to be a leader to evoke possibility and potential within each one of them. And I think that's really key, because many of us as leaders, I think I'm speaking of myself personally, is that when I don't understand what my gifts and strengths or my talents are, I can often feel a little afraid of like, ooh, what if they find out I'm not all that, I'm not all this. And so we overcompensate and try to use our egos instead of saying, you know what, I know I'm really good at this area of the business, but I know I'm really incompetent at, say it, bookkeeping or tracking or sales or whatever it is that you just go, I not only am not good at it, I don't even like it. I don't like that part of my business. So I don't even want to have the energy to put into it to become better. Yeah. Because, like what you and I have talked about is, we can put a lot of time and energy into all kinds of areas. And because we're high achievers, we can be good at anything if we really want to.
Yeah. And I think that that's key, is because, many of us as leaders are high achievers. We can go, we can do, we can make anything happen. And I think it takes some time to really sort through what we are and what we are not good at, because I know for myself, I can be good at all of it. Like I'll say something to my team of like, oh, I suck at computers. And when I really think about it, when they look at me, they're like, no, you don't. And it's not a passion of mine. Like there's another studio owner that he loves the marketing and doing all of that stuff. I don't love it. Could I be good at it? Yeah, I could be great at it. And so it may not even just be what you're good at. It's like, what are you passionate about? What do you really want to be doing?
Yeah, because so sometimes we can think of like, I need to do the marketing, or I need to do the bookkeeping in order to keep this business going, or in order to keep the family going, or the relationship going, whatever it is that you want to be a leader in. And so it's become a need rather than a want. And that gets old after a while. It also gets very, very hard on our adrenals. It's constantly pushing. It becomes an addiction, actually. And so when we look at the whole idea of that, it's like, well, the other questions that you might want to ask yourself too is, what do you want to learn? And often what you want to learn, if it's not from a need to learn, if it's from a want to learn, it's coming from your passions. And those three elements, to be able to have life energy or life force, whether you call that money or health or love or freedom, whatever it is, that flow of energy comes from learning, the desire of learning, which will help you put the time and the energy in to learn something, coming from your passion. And that's a real big paradigm shift in some of the world, that, even in our school system of how we're taught. It's like, what if we could lean towards our passions and our gifts and our strengths? What would the world be like? What would our health be like? Our relationships, all those different aspects that are important to us, they would radically change and most likely improve.
The flip side of that is that it wouldn't only support me and make my health and wealth and all of that better. It also, when I can get to that conscious incompetence of like just, it's funny because a while ago, I think 3 or 4 podcasts ago, we talked about the levels of development of like of achievement, and you go from being unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent to consciously competent to finally unconsciously competent. And that's when you're talking about learning, that's the learning. That's how we learned to do something, right?
Like
So when,
skill development in that
yeah,
way. Yeah.
absolutely. And when I think about going backwards, of like unrolling that and saying, okay, well, I can do that, or even maybe I can't do that, whatever it is, but I'm going to choose to be consciously incompetent in this area. What that does, where I started with this was, like I was saying, you were saying, it really makes a difference for me. The other thing is that it really makes a difference for our teams and the people around us, because now we've empowered them. And what a difference that makes. Instead of they're coming to us with a question and we always have the answer, how does that help them to develop? It develops a codependency instead of an empowered being. So if I can actually just step back, like you said at the beginning, out of my ego, of my need to be recognized or prove something or whatever that ego-ness is, and I can step back and just be like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. And being able to be open to the possibility that perhaps somebody else might have the most beautiful way of doing it
Yeah.
that is totally aligned with their passions and their talent, and that you, in stepping aside, actually give them a hand up.
It's so interesting because as high achievers, one of the things I know that I've gone through in my business is that concept of, well, somebody won't do it as well as I do. They can't do it as well. Even though I don't love it and I'm not enjoying doing it, I am like, oh, but they won't do it as good as I do. So I'll just do it. Oh, drama, right? So one of the things that another coach of mine has said is like, when you're in that position, you're not helping anybody out, because you're in the situation where like who does that help, right?
I think we want to people please, we want to make people happy. And so we'll just do it ourselves or make it done. We don't want to burden them with that skill or burden them with that task, instead of looking at it that perhaps that task isn't a burden to them. Perhaps that's the way that they get to share their gift.
Yeah. And maybe they'll do it differently and better than I could have. So one of the examples that I could give you is, this coach of mine, he said that he would give people, they would come to him with a question or something and be like, well, what do you think? And they would come up with an answer. And it's something that he had already tried. And I know I've done this at my studio too. I've already tried that. And he, instead of saying it out loud of like, we've already tried that, he would just, quiet himself and be like, okay, I know I've already tried that and it doesn't work, but I'll teach them, quote unquote, teach them a lesson, right? So they'll learn for themselves that it doesn't work, and they'll be like, okay, that's great, go try it. And they'll come back and they'll be successful. He's like, well, wait a minute, that didn't work for me. Why is it working for them, right? And it just is, it's one of those things where it may work for one person better than, or even, when it doesn't work for person A, it'll work for person B. You don't know. Or something might have changed. Who knows? And so that arrogance of, well, I already know that doesn't work. letting somebody else do it their way, maybe it will work for them. And maybe it won't either. And it's a lesson that they needed to learn. So it's a both and in that instance.
It reminds me of a time I remember, you know how sometimes you get along with certain people and other people it's like sandpaper. It just doesn't work. And you think, oh, it's all them. It's all them. They're just totally incompetent, you know? And then somebody else comes along and the person that you were like sandpapering, grinding with, the other person that you meet goes, oh my God, aren't they the most wonderful person? They're incredible. And you're like, oh my God, are you crazy? Like, am I crazy? Like, and I remember there was a saying that someone said to me, they said, you know, people are different with different people. Because we shine lights on different areas. Like we have a different perspective, we have a different entry place with each person. And that's the same as in leadership. It's like we're bringing to whatever it is, the intention of whatever we're building together, we're bringing a certain skill, strength, passion, talent, value, and that mixture of the individuals that are coming together are also lighting up in different ways. So it's not meant for one person to be overpowering everything. It's meant to shine your light. That's your light to do. So I always say, it's like, what's mine to do? Is this really mine to do? Or is there someone else out there that actually finds this enjoyable? And not only enjoyable, and because they find it enjoyable, they do it in half the time with half the stress and way more elegance and beauty. Like it just works better. And so imagine if you're on a team or in a family or in a relationship with people who are totally doing what's theirs to do. And it works together.
Yeah, I love that. And another kind of a saying from my past is like the best way to increase your life force, example, make more money, is to help other people to increase their life force. Example, make money, right? So the way I had heard it was the best way to make money is to help other people to make money. And when you can step out of your ego and the need to do everything, and you can actually be like, okay, well, this is kind of a stuck place for me or something I don't love to do. Who can I find to do that? Now you're supporting that person in not just in their personal growth, but also monetarily and financially and life force. And it just is, it's all around. That's the type of team that we all want to be on, right?
Exactly. So our call to you is to say, to really take time and look at, where do you want to be consciously competent so that you want to be growing and glowing in that area? And where do you want to actually be consciously incompetent and let somebody else, like say, you know, here's the trial. Ask for help this week. Ask for help. Make a moral inventory of going, hey, you know what? I could do this, but I really don't love it. And I really don't want to put the time and energy into that. And ask yourself, who could I align with that could help me do this? And ask for help. And even if you don't know who could do it, ask somebody who could do it.
Right.
Somebody out there will actually know who could help you.
And that's one of the empowering questions of, all right, who could I enroll in this endeavor of mine? And that would be perfect for it.
And in my old life, a long time ago, I used to be the director at a volunteer organization, and I was recruiting volunteer instructors. And because it was a volunteer, charitable organization, there was a lot of different age, economical, differences, and people would come and they'd be complaining. There was a lot of complaining, and I always looked at the complainers as an opportunity that you don't actually complain about something unless you actually have the solution. And sometimes we think of it as a complainer and they're just being a petty tyrant. And instead, I would enroll them to volunteer. I'd say, thank you so much for bringing it. It's obviously very important to you that this needs to be done. And it sounds like you might have a solution. Would you be willing to help serve that and make a difference with that? And most people lit up and go, my God, they just recognized me. And dang sure they got that job done, because it was so irritating to them. It's because they had the answer. And I think we forget that. It's like, so when you're irritated in your life, it's because you have the solution. It's just, it's coming from a different place.
That's powerful. I love that. Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people don't even realize that that's the case. I know, and we forget, even if you do know that that's the case, right? We all forget because we get caught up in our own personal drama. And recently when I was sharing this with my spiritual teacher, and he's like, that's sacred drama. And I thought, oh, okay. That's interesting. So not only do we have the answer if we're in our drama, it's sacred drama because that's where we grow. That's where we grow from.
That is the foundation of which new life begins.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for listening today to our Soulful Leader podcast. And please, give us your insights and ideas, and even let us know what you would love to hear from us too. And you can do so by going onto our Facebook, The Soulful Leader.
Or you can visit our website, thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com, and please share us with a friend. So we will chat with you all next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye for now. And that wraps up another episode of the Soulful Leader podcast with your hosts, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Oslack. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to dive deeper, head over to our website at thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com.
Until next time.